Hey y'all, it's your boy Big Stu.
And Kayla.
And welcome back to
Ballin with the Ballards.
Ballards.
So today we are going to be giving our thoughts on the new Jordan Peele movie, Us. So this is your spoiler warning. We have seen it. We're going to talk about it. You can't talk about it without giving away spoilers. Like, you just can't.
So there's no spoiler alert. I'm sorry. If you don't want to be spoiled on this movie, cut the video off right now.
And here's what you need to do. You need to push pause. You need to get your butt to your nearest theater. Yep. You need to watch it, then come back and watch the video with us, or watch the video, and then leave your comments so we can continue the conversation. So there's your spoiler warning. You've got it. So we have made some notes, so if I'm looking down, that's why. Yeah. Because I have lots of thoughts on this movie. And
a lot to unpack.
Right. So we made notes to streamline it, and we don't just babble like I was doing when we first got home from the movie. So we went and watched it last week, so we've had a little bit of time to
sit on it,
and think about it, make comments. We've listened to a little bit of people talking about it, but we tried not to.
Right. Because I definitely think this is one of those movies where it's kind of it's up for your own interpretation.
Which is what I think is real cool that Jordan Peele does. He made one statement on this movie, but Get Out, I don't think he really made anything.
No, he didn't really say it. He was really hushed on that one.
So,
But we're going to talk about how, I saw the trailer, I believe it was Super Bowl weekend, or Super Bowl day, when I first saw the trailer, and, I seen Jordan Peele, and that was probably enough said right there. But the trailer was really eerie and creepy. They even turned a legendary hip hop song, I Got Five, on it, and made it slowed it down a lot. It made it really
super
scary
creepy.
And creepy. Right. That was one of the first things I recognized in the trailer, and it just was really a very dark. You could tell it's gonna be a dark film, and so I was like, "Oh yeah, I can't wait till it comes out."
Now you have watched horror for a while, correct? Horror movies,
horror films / I guess we normally, I ain't gonna say in the hood, but we just call them scary movies. We don't necessarily classify them as horror, but right. To be honest with you, there's not really many horror films nowadays that actually create horror.
Right.
A lot of times I'm just laughing at them.
Gotcha.
Because it's just ridiculous.
Now, I, on the other hand,
is a scaredy
I
cat.
didn't even watch, besides some M. Night Shyamalan, however you say his name, besides a couple, which, his are not horror, his are suspense, thrillery, creepy crawly. I watched those in, high school. Yeah. I didn't even really start watching any horror until we got together, and I'd only watch, some baby, the really old ones.
She still refuses to watch them. That's why I was surprised, because she was the main one that was
But I saw it was the Jordan Peele one, and so that obviously got my interest. And from the trailer, you automatically get the us versus them mentality, or not the us versus them, but that it's we're the enemy type thing. Like at the very end, the little boy's like, it's us, or they're us or something. So that definitely, and obviously the name is Us of the movie. So that intrigued me. And I told Storm, we are going to go watch this.
Which surprised me, because like I said,
I was we might have to go watch it in broad daylight, but we're going to watch it.
Chucky. I grew up watching, I guess Leprechaun is more comical, but I grew up watching Jason, Michael Myers. I grew up watching all of those.
I just watched Chucky, not maybe a year ago. Maybe.
I watched all those.
He made me watch, or maybe it was the new one we watched when the new one came out. I don't remember. But yeah, but I was definitely intrigued because I knew it was Jordan Peele.
Right.
And so
we saw Get Out. So.
I knew it was going to be that style.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is a question I wanted to talk about. So obviously his movies are so dense, and there's so much you can unpack, and this one has even more than Get Out.
Yeah.
There's just so many. Oh, it's so full of stuff. But I want to know when, because he doesn't make it obvious. He doesn't paint a big sign on the wall that says, this is what the movie is about.
Right.
It's, like I said, he leaves it very much up to your interpretation. And so at what point did it kind of start clicking this is, because, okay, rewind to what I was trying to say. Sorry.
Here you go.
This is why we made notes. This is why we made notes, people.
You disregard the notes.
But so it seemingly is just random events that are kind of building to they're making a storyline, but it's
Right.
not directly taking you somewhere.
Right. So it was kind of the movie. I'm not gonna say it started off. I guess you could say it started off slow, but I mean most movies do.
Right, but it still drew you in though. Like it wasn't.
It was
just
drawing
dry.
you in, but it was kind of giving you a backstory about. It initially starts off with them planning a vacation,
right,
or a weekend getaway or whatever, and she has a lot of hesitation. And at first you're like, what is that about? And then it clearly shows you some trauma that happened, but not fully. It just shows you a little bit of trauma that happened
right,
at that specific area in which they were going. And so you kind of go, okay, that makes sense. But even then, it's just kind of like, where are we going with this?
right.
But then to me, it clicked. Not even initially when the family came through the drive, the us family came through the drive, the tethered came to the driveway. Like, okay, that's when the pace picked up, and now I'm like, oh yeah, it's about to get cracking. But still, it was kind of like, what is this about? It clicked to me when I can't think of the main character's actual name in the movie.
I don't remember.
I can't think of it,
but Lupita.
When her tethered was like, she asked him, who are you? And she was like, I think she said, we're American.
We are the Americans.
We are the Americans. And that kind of was like, it made me like change my lens on the movie from that point on, and like, start to look at stuff like deeper. And now I'm like really looking for all the Easter eggs and the clues, and that's how I wanted to switch for me. When did it switch for you?
Mine was a little earlier. Mine was whenever they run off to, I don't remember the friend's name, but the white friends.
That was after.
Was it after that?
Yeah, because they escaped the, you remember they escaped and got on the boat?
I thought the American speech was later. I'm sorry. Okay. Well, they escape and they get on the boat and they go to the neighbors, and they're having to, like, the neighbors have already been murdered by their tethered, and so they're having to fight the neighbors tethered.
Right.
And at one point, the boy comes in,
mm-hmm.
and he sees Lupita's character, like, bashing, and she's making these like primitive like yowls and grunts. And so that kind of started it, like, wait, like, who's the real bad guy here?
Right.
And then they go get in the car, they went back to the car. I was when they go for the car keys. They come back to the car, and the girl's arguing about how she should get to drive because she has more body count. She's killed more people. And it's like, oh, okay.
Right. And just now you saying that, like, I didn't think about it, but it's kind of like, they very quickly, at least some of them, became desensitized to the violence that they were actually, accounting for. Like, yeah, in a sense, it's like it's survival, but like it wasn't even just like all we got out of there. It was like they were like gloating about the bodies that they were
and that's when it kind of started clicking for me. Like, oh, okay, here's a path that we're going down. Now, my biggest takeaway, the thing that I like, my biggest takeaway.
So these is the heavy hitters. This is the grit. This is.
And these are not what Jordan Peele wanted us to get out of it.
These are not. This is
just what we personally have gotten out of it. The biggest thing that I walked away with was the experimenting without concern for the ramifications. Like they want to talk about with the tethered it was like the government essentially wanted everyone to be a puppet. And where they could control, well, it ended up not working, and then they just abandoned it and left this big mess.
Did I ask you a question? Did the visual of the bunny rabbits play a part into why you kind of felt that way?
See, the rabbits weren't an initial thing for me. I kind of got it later, like they were tested.
Yeah,
they were like especially they were white rabbits. A lot of. Just in general, like lab rats, feeder rats, test rabbits, they're white, and because they genetically have been bred, they have so many different genetic issues.
Right.
They're not like friendly like your typical. Like most feeder rats are going to be these white. I can't think of the breed of them, but it's most animals. But it's your test subject because they're not personable. They've been bred for science. So. And that's how these people were. They were just made simply for the sake of the government as an experiment. It didn't work, so we just abandoned them in the tunnels. And there's just so much, like, the obvious one is cloning. All the different cloning experiences that have been going on. I mean, since we were in elementary school, I remember Dolly the sheep was a huge deal.
Yeah, but it's picked up a lot.
There's a lot of famous people who like clone their pets and stuff.
And and then it's even like, even if it's not pure cloning, it's like nowadays you can basically build a baby instead of build a bear. Like,
which, if you watch Jurassic Park, you know messing with genetics is not a good idea.
Right, and even in the line that I took away from it, I'm pretty sure you heard it was like, like you can clone essentially and get the body part, but the soul just doesn't carry over.
Right? You can't clone a soul.
Right.
And that's like with like especially pets. People talk about, you know, like, oh, they had this great dog and they cloned the dog, and like it's a cool dog, but and it looks just like Buddy, but it's a completely different dog because it, you know, it's just like identical twins. Like they're gonna be similar, but they are their own person. But I think it goes into so many other things besides that. You have like, you know, medicines. You know, we don't know the full ramifications of a lot of the medicines we're taking because they haven't been studied
extensively.
Right, like right now they're working on a postpartum medication, and it's like an IV drip, and essentially it just drugs you up for a few days. But some of the test subjects have smothered their babies.
Yeah.
Like they've been so asleep that they smother their baby. Like we just want an answer that we don't really care about the cost.
Right.
And other things too. I remember semi-recently hearing on a podcast about how, I don't remember, so sorry, it's going to be like one of those hearsay, he said, she said things. But it's a Brain Candy podcast if you want to go find it. But there's this beautiful island, and they did a bunch of military experiments on it, and on half the island, and the other half of the island is inhabited. But now the one half of the island is running out of resources, but no one can really go to the other half of the island that is beautiful and flourishing because you don't know if you're going to step on a landmine or like what the like nuclear ramifications are. Like,
then it's kind of like also, if you want to go even deeper, like for those who know, I don't know the full history, I don't know a lot, but you know, growing up, it's not really in your history books, but like the Tuskegee experiments, where like they experimented on black people to, you know, figure out, you know, whatever they're trying to figure out, whether it's a cure for this or, you know, why do our black people this or whatever kind of genetic questions they have. They experiment on these people with no regard, and I know that I'm almost certain that they had to settle with a lot of the families, and pay them for the experiments. And we can go even deeper with that, but that could be a whole nother podcast about even the Nazis with how they experiment with genetics and try to create a master race. But it's like literally trying to manipulate genetics. So it's like all of that can kind of be enclosed in that whole
But it's where we just want answers and we don't care what the price is and who has to, and I think even more importantly, who has to pay the price, which is going to lead us into our next one. This one I don't really know the most eloquent way to word this, but essentially the effect of privilege. So you had go ahead.
So this is a theme that I really saw kind of immediately after kind of it started to really get deep into the movie, is that there was privilege from like the non-tethered, and there was an entitlement. I mean, I guess you can say from the tethered, but if you watch the movie, you understand that she initially, I guess, can I say that? Yeah. She initially wasn't a tethered, like they switched. But there was her tethered kidnapper. There was this entitlement that the quote unquote tethered had to the lifestyle that the actual tethered got to live. Like her dancing career and all that.
But even just talking about, like, you know, you got the sky, you got the fresh air, and you had hot food that was cooked. And we didn't, and you just took it off for granted. And
like that's huge because, like, you know, like you said, like they took it for granted. And that too ties into another aspect of that is how we treat people who grow up in whether it's the inner city, the hood, or even more like third world countries where there's like mass corruption and continuous chaos and genocide and all these mass atrocities on a large scale. We look at these people like they're less than human.
Right.
We point, we have our nose snuck up in the air and we point down at them, and we don't realize like you don't grow up in those type of environments in that condition and come out all right.
Right.
Like I'm just gonna say like I listen to a lot of podcasts that deal with like serial killers and things of that nature. Don't look at me strange. Yeah, I'm okay. Yeah, don't worry about me. Don't worry about her. We're good. But you see a general pattern. Most of these people came from extreme abuse, sexually, physical, emotionally, were detached from the world, were outcast, were like brutally beaten, brutally treated, and then it ends up that they commit these atrocities. There has to be a correlation if almost every serial killer has the same upbringing.
And I think that that's a big, I think that's why the brilliance of, the tethered and the original character being, swapped places. Because so often we're like, oh, well, if I was in that situation, I would never do that.
Right.
Or I would never get it, to that point that this would happen. But even though she was, like an actual, like a real human, she still ended up sinking down, ended up, leading this massive revolution of this complete slaughter because all her privilege and her resources were taken away.
Snatched away, yeah.
And then she became, like, unhuman.
A
like
product of her environment.
Yep. Exactly. And flip that. You have a tethered. She literally came up and couldn't speak any English.
Right.
And she found a way to prosper, had an amazing dance career, like, had a great family. Like, she prospered and had this beautiful life.
Right.
And she came from this terrible, because it's all about, your environment and your resources and which because, also comes into the us versus them mentality.
Right.
It said like, we look at other people, like he kind of talked, we look and we stick our nose up and say we would never do that. But it's one of things where it's, very easily said than done.
And I don't want to get political. That's not, if you know my political stance, I don't really care for none of them.
Right, everyone's
so everybody's everybody's in the Democrats, Republicans, they're all in the same boat.
Right.
Some of them may be better than others, but we're not gonna get into all of that. But one of the hot topics in this country that's been going on for like the last, I guess, since Trump's been in office. If you're a Trump supporter,
we're not bashing. We're just saying it's.
I got love for everybody as long as you treat me accordingly. But you look at how oftentimes I hate to use the word, but I'm gonna use it, rhetoric on immigrants, especially from like Central America that when that mass group tried to come in, they tried to get asylum, is that what it's called?
Yeah.
Into America, and his words as far as like, they're violent and all of this, and it's like, okay, yes, some of them are, but it's like, if you took Kayla and you put her in an environment where every day it's a literal survival,
war, right?
Like it's just survival. It's not like living. It's not experience. It's just like, how do I make it to the next day without getting killed, without getting sexually assaulted? Like it's really just survive till the next day.
Right.
Right. And then you compound that with if you have kids.
Right.
Who you now are trying to figure out, how do I get my kid to not go down this dark path, because the dark path's all around him. He has all these dark paths around him and maybe one little bitty light path that I got to try to get him down. So it's like, yes, they're going to want to come over here because you can't broadcast yourself as a land of opportunity, but then get mad when people want the opportunity. Like,
I think that's a big reason why the tethered don't speak English.
Right.
And they seem very animalistic.
Right.
It's because Jordan Peele really wanted that that point to come across.
Right.
I think that is his comment he kind of made. I don't remember the exact statement he made, but it was along the lines of about that it was immigration was part of it.
Right.
And then our last big point is about how we
But hold on, before you even get to
sorry.
that,
Okay.
because this is something we've talked about, and it's down here like the us versus them mentality. Again, this is gonna be controversial, but I don't care. I say what I want to say. I personally didn't do anything incredible.
Right.
Didn't do anything worthwhile to be an American citizen.
Right.
If I could get vulgar, I'm not gonna get vulgar, but my parents did what they did for me to be here. I could have easily been born, God willing. If it was up to God, I could have easily been born in Syria. Could have easily been born in El Salvador. I could have easily been born into a number of third world countries where my access to actual formidable education, to clean water, to nutritious food, to um, resources in general would have been cut off. And you can't tell somebody who's in despair not to do whatever they got to do to change their environment. Like I said, I'm going to be honest and keep it a buck. If there's nothing that we wouldn't do for our kid, right? There's nothing we wouldn't do for Ryder. If that meant I had to walk 1,000 miles to, like, look at Moses. I'm going deep. Look at Moses. Look how far they had to travel to get to the promised land. That was for what? His people.
Right.
Like, if they had to go across somebody's territory, it was like, look, we got to get to the promised land. Right. Like, you can't tell somebody who lost a lot of family, lost everything to war, to, like I said, atrocities, not to do whatever they can to get over here. Now, I'm not saying we've got to let everybody in, but
obviously,
I can't be mad at them for trying to better their lives. Like, that's what everybody wants.
Right.
Why do people go to work every day? You want to better your life. You want to better your financial situation. So I can't be mad at that. So I'm sorry if I got on the riff, but that's kind of like, that stuff really bothers me because it's like, everybody just wants a better life. Like, how hard is that? Like, how hard is that to understand? Like, let me get off of it, but yeah.
And then that kind of goes into how we fix these type of problems. Mm-hmm. Especially the two that we are going to focus on are homelessness and hunger. Stuart is actually one who looked into this. But like we said, Jordan Peele, he puts it in there, it's in there for a reason. Right. And so the big campaign that the little girl saw, Lupita's character saw when she was, when she was little, was on TV was the Hands Across America, which didn't realize it was like a real thing.
We were too young. We weren't. I don't think
we weren't born. I think it was 86. I think.
Yeah.
But so we did a little research into it, and Hands Across America was I think when people paid like $10 to reserve their spot in line.
Right.
And
supposed to go across
US, and they're all hold hands, right?
Right.
And it raised $34 million for hunger. But after all the executive cost, only $15 million actually went out and did what it was supposed to do.
Right. And it was supposed to feed not only take care of the homelessness, but like world hunger in general. And again, these numbers, we did get them off Wikipedia.
Right.
So,
right.
Whatever that means. But it just kind of like, I thought like, again, and then like in these movies, you can maybe overthink and see something that maybe he didn't even intend, but I think that's part of the beauty of it.
Right.
So like, we oftentimes look at homeless people, especially the ones like holding signs who maybe say, especially when they have a Bible verse.
Right.
And trying to like,
say or like God bless or whatever. Right. Yeah.
It's kind of like, we look at them like all of them are crazy. And almost always we look at them like throwaways to society.
Right.
Like, I'm not going to put nobody's name out there. But I remember this time I felt really bad in my spirit. It was in college and we went on a trip to San Diego. And this homeless man had on a sign outside the mall asking for money. And one of my teammates made like a very harsh comment of like, man, I ain't giving him no money. Like, he could have went to college. He could have had the opportunities that I had. And it's like, I'm always somebody who's compassionate, and I don't know what people went through.
I think that all goes back into the effects of privilege and.
Right, I don't know what somebody went through to get them to that point. Now, are there some people who, because a lot of homeless people have mental health issues
Right.
that have been unchecked and undiagnosed and haven't been, you know, I ain't gonna say medicated, but
They haven't received the proper care, proper help.
So it's like I can't look at people and just automatically, poo poo on their lives and say how bad. I just don't know what people go through.
But I think the big thing is the movie set in California, which has a huge homeless population.
Yep. Skid Row.
But but the crazy thing with California, and I remember reading this article years ago.
And don't forget New York too.
Right, New York. But you have people who are making good money who, if they were living in Oklahoma or somewhere in the Midwest,
a nice house,
would have
an apartment.
Right, but some people would have like this one article that has stuck with me, and I specifically remember reading it. I think she made just under like $100,000 a year.
Right.
And it was her and her daughter, and they were praying that they weren't going to that the rent wasn't going to go up on the garage they were living in.
Right, because it's like...
And it was like she had a master's degree. She worked a good job. It wasn't like they lived like this extravagant life. I don't think they even had a car.
Right.
But it was literally just because the cost of living is so high in some of these plays.
Right.
I think that's why he said it there. We do these little things like we'll have a fundraiser here, a fundraiser there, or we, do a program here that fixes something, but we're not actually fixing the actual problem. We're just like prettying it up or
patches.
And sometimes I kind of wonder if some of this stuff like is just making us feel better. People paid their $10, got their shirt, and said, "Oh look, I fed somebody today."
Right. Even to feed the American, like we live in one of the richest, and then I'm saying, I don't know, I guess financially speaking, there's enough money to cure and feed, not cure, but solve the world hunger issue.
Right.
But I mean, I know a lot of that is, it's not necessarily as clear cut because there's a lot of corruption. Right. Even when you do provide money for certain third world countries and stuff. But like you talk about LA. Like LA and New York are both like the meccas, not even just of the U.S., but like of the world.
Right.
Like those are world-renowned cities. You have these world-renowned cities where there's superstars, millionaires, and billionaires. That's where millionaires and billionaires reside.
Right.
But yet, you're talking about having a Skid Row where there's countless amount of homeless people.
Right.
And it's like they're like, I don't know if Skid Row for sure, I've never been there, but it's not like far away from like high rises and where rich people actually lay their head and reside. Right. So it's like you just walking over the homeless people, you're just disregarding them, and nobody's really doing anything
about the actual problem.
And it's not like we don't have the resources to do it.
Right.
And I think that's one of the big things. And even the homeless man on there, like, the people just walk past him. He's crazy and he's all this. But then obviously he was actually, in the movie, he was if people paid attention to him, they would have seen, I guess, doomsday coming in a sense.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So that's kind of the big key points that we took away.
There's so much.
And even then, like we said, we probably need to watch it at least.
I know your number was 7.
I would say I need to at least watch it 2 more times.
Right. But what I want to do is I want to watch it again and try not to pause it and watch it with the understanding that now like that she is tethered to his escape.
Right.
Because then there's that whole controversy of was she doing like, was it selfish or was it like mother protection or was it like selfless like or selfish like her protecting everything that she had like gained. So I want to watch it from that perspective, and then I want to watch it and that's pause it every 5 minutes and talk about it.
And now, I mean, I'm pretty sure there's a lot of stuff we missed.
Right.
And we didn't really want to get in. I guess their ending part, people speculate certain things.
I don't think I know there's one theory said that the boy had been tethered as well.
Right.
I don't see
how.
I don't understand that at all.
I don't see how.
I think it's just that maybe my thing is because like Lupita's character talked about how they were so about like how about how like essentially theirs worked because she was the tethered and she was puppeting the real person in the underground. So I just think that maybe he had a close. They talked about like they were special souls and they were closer. So I just think him and maybe his tethered were closer.
The only way I can maybe see it is there was that one point when he walked in on her, grunting and stuff.
Right.
But and the way he looked at it was kind of like, I get it. You know what I'm saying?
Right, but I think maybe that was, well, but that was whenever I kind of started wondering like,
Right.
if who was gonna kind of like who was gonna become the monster.
Right.
Because then that might have been a hint, but I don't think that he was. I don't think that the boy that drove off at the end, that had the normal face and not like the Berta face. I don't think that he was ever a tethered. I think he was always a human.
But then I feel like something else happened at the end where they had like a moment. Him and the mom had a moment.
Well, he would have heard them talking because he was in the locker.
Right.
So like he would have heard the whole
But
conversation.
he didn't make an issue of it.
Right,
so
because it was his mama.
I think they wanted. I wonder if people thought that maybe he was. I don't know.
But anyways, yeah, I don't think that he was ever a tethered. I just think that maybe him and his tether had a very close, like how the Lupita character had, like their tethers were, their
Right.
connection was close. And so I just think that him, and that's why he was able to like walk himself back into the fire. But anyways, yeah. So that's a lot to unpack.
So we're gonna kind of give, I guess, our.
Okay.
I guess we're gonna kind of give our final thoughts /
yes.
kind of like our review or score or whatever you want to call it.
I'm gonna go first. My mind was blown. I automatically wanted to watch it again, and like literally the whole way home, we just talked about it. And we watched.
Right.
And like I'll just be at work scanning, and I'll just be like thinking of stuff.
Right.
I mean, I liked Get Out, but this was like a million times better than Get Out.
A million times?
I think so. I liked it way better than Get Out.
You're a prisoner at the moment. So if you had to give it a score out of 10, what would you give it?
11.
Okay.
I'll give it an 11.
I, on the other hand, I think I liked it better than Get Out. I don't think it was leaps and bounds.
But I think also, too, you understood more of the issues that Get Out was getting at, whereas you kind of had to explain some of the issues to me that Get Out was getting at.
Right.
So I think that's, like, this one, I was able to, like, understand it easier. I mean, also there were some obvious points in Get Out, obviously. But, like, the more, like, intricate ones, you kind of had to walk me through and explain.
I think the reason why, because I've heard people critique it, and I kind of understand the critiques, and I kind of agree with them in a sense, and that's why I can't say it's leaps and bounds above Get Out, is because if I threw that away, and I watched this film as purely as a horror film.
It's not horror.
Huh?
It's not very, like, horror.
It's not very scary. I was never, like, frightened at any moment. Like,
Right.
It's, like, if I had to rate it as a pure horror film, I'd probably say it was, like, a 7.
But see, whereas I'm a person, if I was rating it as a pure horror film, I wouldn't be rating it because I don't do scary. So that's why I think also I appreciated it. I mean, there was blood, but he could have, if he really wanted to, he could have like blood.
That's what I'm saying. Like as a
like
horror,
it wasn't, and I loved it. I think that's why.
As a horror film, I want to see it. Like I want to see the brains. I want it to get gritty. I want it to be like frightening. I want it to be. There was no jump scares. Like there was no like none of that. So as a horror film, I could see how people go like it was alright.
Whereas I love more the thriller aspect.
Like it was more of a psychological thriller than maybe a horror film. It had horror elements,
right.
but I wouldn't.
Walking around with scissors.
It had horror elements, but I think it was more of like a psychological thriller because this had the like.
Right. I think that's probably why I liked it so much more.
If I had to rate it, I would still give it a 9.5.
It was the horror movie I could watch, so it gets an 11.
All right, so yeah, that's kind of my review, and that's our breakdown of the movie.
So if you haven't seen it, go see it.
Go see it immediately, like right now. Stop the video.
And you need to watch it in theaters, like that way you get the full effect, like big screen.
Yeah.
Right. So go enjoy it at least once in the theater. Then come to the comments and tell us what you think.
Are we right?
Hear your thoughts.
Are we wrong? Are we completely off base?
Is there other things that you can attach to things we made? Are there rebuttals to things that we've said?
Right.
Are there other things that we didn't talk about that you found? Because like I said, it's so stinking impactful.
Right.
But anyways, anything else you want to say?
No, I think we took enough of their time today.
You better have enjoyed it. I'm sure.
Yeah.
So, once again, thanks for...
No, hold up.
Oh,
wait.
I'm sorry.
Hold your horses.
Okay.
We forgot to tell them to what?
They should know by now.
I know, you got to remind
Please
people.
like the video. If you haven't already subscribed to the video, hit that notification bell so you can know when more of this crazy is coming.
Mm-hmm.
And please, 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 please leave us comments. We want to talk to y'all.
Yep.
We are friends. We want internet friends. Even if you're our real life friend, you can be our internet and our real life friend. It's okay.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. All right.
Let me get my scissors out.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Okay. All right.
Awkward. Insert awkward laughter here.
Yeah.
Okay. Are you ready to close now?
Yeah.
Okay. So, finally, thanks for Ballin' with the Ballards.